And greetings, followers. This is our weekly weather Zoom hosted by weather prognosticator and meteorologist Chad Merrill. And we'll take a look at the weather that has occurred over the last couple of days and look ahead to the next 7 days, especially across the mid-Atlantic. So let me first begin by sharing my screen here. And what you will see is the Hagerstown Town and Country Almanack website, updated on a weekly basis, has the forecast for September on the left-hand side, and of course several different articles, announcements, and this is updated, like I said, on a monthly basis. We did forecast cooler, less humid weather for the 14th and 15th. Of course, it's very warm outside, but relatively dry, except for later this evening as a cold front comes through. Then we have a fair and mild pattern 16th, 17th, and 18th, rain in the forecast 19th through the 21st. First of all, if you remember me talking about Hurricane Larry, that was, of course, last week. That storm gained significant latitude, more than normal, and actually transitioned to a large low-pressure center that produced several feet of snow in Greenland. Very unusual to see that much snow in Greenland, even though it is traditionally a cold climate. They usually get a couple of inches here and there, but not several feet like this particular storm system brought. Well, looking back home, what we have is a frontal system moving across the mid-Atlantic and a tropical depression, which of course was Nicholas, that made landfall in Texas. We talked about that last week. That produced some widespread heavy rain across the lower Mississippi Valley. Here's the frontal system moving across Pennsylvania and the mid-Atlantic very slowly but surely. And we have a tropical system off the coast of the southeast coast. This low is developing. It's going to become tropical storm. The O name is Odette, and maybe even a Category 1 hurricane. First of all, what we have here is 45 to 50 knot shear. That is across New York and across interior New England. This zone is where the severe weather is going to occur late this afternoon with wind gusts over 57 miles per hour. A little bit less shear as you head into northern Pennsylvania. So there will be a couple of damage reports as far south as about maybe Altoona, Pennsylvania. But once you get into the mid-Atlantic, into West Virginia, some of these storms will be moving across the same location repeated times. So what that means is a potential for some heavy rain and flash flooding. This is the Pittsburgh sounding this morning, showing precipitable water, the amount of water in the atmosphere at 1.49 inches. Historically, for the middle of September, traditionally, the amount of water in the atmosphere is very close to an inch. So we are well in excess of average in terms of atmospheric moisture across the mid-Atlantic, and that's why heavy rain could produce some localized, just localized flash flooding. Not everybody's going to see this flash flooding occur. In the wake of this particular front, we do have somewhat cooler temperatures across the Ohio Valley, and temperatures will drop a couple of degrees across the mid-Atlantic tomorrow, but still above average. Here's our tropical system. And the movement of the system is going to be dictated by this upper level trough, as you can see, pushing across the Great Lakes. This is going to help steer the storm just off the coast of the mid-Atlantic this weekend and northeast. So what that means is there will be some rough seas, some large waves crashing into the mid-Atlantic coast this weekend from this developing tropical storm and hurricane. We do expect a little bit of wind across the northeast. We did highlight the 19th of September as the potential for high winds in the northeast from an offshore tropical system. Again, here's the track of the storm. It'll head very close to the Outer Banks and then move off towards the north and east, and the likely intensity of this particular storm is a tropical storm, perhaps even a Category 1 hurricane as it nears the eastern part of New England off the coast, and that's when we expect some of the high winds. Now, looking ahead, we do have above average temperatures that are going to continue, so you'll need to run the air conditioner through at least the middle part of September, with cooler than average temperatures across the northwestern U.S. Now, Nicholas, when it made landfall earlier this week, produced some heavy rain that continues in increments across the deep south. The bullseye was Bunkie, Louisiana, with 10.58 inches of rain. Lake Charles had 2.5 inches of rain, and about 1.5 inches across Alabama and Florida. Mississippi had a little bit heavier amounts. Biloxi had very close to 5 inches of rainfall. In the western Pacific, a typhoon brought significant rain to Shanghai. Fortunately, that has moved east, but this particular storm is a tropical storm and will track through Japan, producing some heavy rain through the weekend, and that will eventually transition to a low pressure as it approaches the northern part of the Pacific. The rain was so intense that it caused Shanghai Disneyland to close for a couple of days, but they have since resumed operation in Shanghai at the Disneyland Resort. Well, across the Mid-Atlantic, the crops are in great condition for the most part. This is a look at topsoil moisture for the state of Virginia. Most of it is adequate, maybe a little bit of a surplus here and there. Crops are doing well, especially compared to average. And the number of apples harvested for the week of September 12th. The current week shows about 42, more than last week at this time, slightly less than last year and the 5-year average. But as you can see, the corn for silage harvested is actually very comparable to the last 5 years. So we are in good condition there. And as we take a look at the other states here across the Mid-Atlantic, we do see that Pennsylvania also has some good numbers in terms of apples harvested, topsoil and subsoil moisture as well, and the conditions of crops, mainly in fair to good, even some excellent conditions. That also is the case as we head into the state of New Jersey. We have 100% adequate topsoil and subsoil, so the rainfall that we had this summer and earlier in the month definitely has contributed to some good conditions. Now, for some of these crops, like apples, for example, and cranberries, need some cooler nights for optimal conditions in harvesting, and we don't see cool nights in the forecast until the very end of the month or the very beginning of October. Turning our attention to Maryland, also seeing great conditions in terms of the crops and the soil moisture. The apples harvested this week, 63, the 5-year average 55, so up a bit for apples, and also other crops like cantaloupe, produce, doing pretty good as well, cucumbers, and soybeans. As we move into Delaware, same situation, adequate topsoil and subsoil moisture, and we're seeing the number of apples harvested greater than the 5-year average. Many people look forward to apples this time of the year as we head for the fall season. Topsoil in great condition here across the state of West Virginia, as is the crops, the apples, the corn, the hay, the soybeans. We don't see any, or very little, I should say, in the very poor to poor category. Well, as I mentioned, we are going into we are in an active tropical season right now. That should start to subside just a bit as we go into October briefly. We typically hit a little dip in early October, and then climatologically, we can start to see more storms in the Atlantic as we hit the middle part of October. But again, we are on 2021, and we are on Odette. So we are working our way through the alphabet. Now, here's a look at the haze and the smoke that is forecasted. As you noticed on Tuesday, there was quite a bit of smoke in the atmosphere. And fortunately, as we go through the next couple of days, the amount of smoke integrated in the atmosphere is going to diminish across the Mid-Atlantic. With the frontal system, though, there will be a bit of smoke from Northern California into the northern part of the Great Basin into the northern plains. So now I want to turn my attention here, stop sharing the screen, and take a look at the night sky here across the Mid-Atlantic. So here, I'm going to share the screen with you right now. All right. So for those of you interested in the night sky, here's what we have in store for the next week. Moon and Saturn will be very close in proximity in the evening sky. This is tomorrow, Thursday, into early Friday. You first have to look in the evening towards the southeast. Then if you're not outside until later at night, you want to look towards the south and southwest to see the moon and Saturn very close together. Moon and Jupiter will be close together and visible in the evening sky Saturday evening into early on Sunday. So that'll be a feature to see as well. Now the full moon for this month is the harvest moon, and that occurs, it will be rising at 4:19 p.m. on Monday, and then it will be setting at 1:51 a.m. early Tuesday. Each month has a name for its full moon, and the name is the harvest moon for the month of September. And the autumnal equinox, when we have about 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night, occurs on Wednesday. Then as we move forward beyond Wednesday, we have more hours of darkness than we do daylight. And to give you an idea of the weather forecast in terms of temperatures over the next 2 weeks, this is what's called a 500 millibar chart. So this shows the height of the 500 millibar level. The higher the height, the warmer the atmosphere is. And this particular line shows climatology, where we normally expect the 500 millibar heights to be. So anytime you see this line above the climatological mean. That means warmer than average temperatures. And we are going to be there almost until the end of the month. We have a little bit of a cool snap. Late September most likely will occur, though, in early October. But we're not really going to get into a fall pattern just yet in the early part of October. Bishops has a couple of running events. Saturday the 18th in Fairfax Station, mostly cloudy, a few sprinkles, not expecting any heavy rain. The rain from the tropical system will be well offshore. Temperatures, though, muggy, 70s in the morning, mid-80s in the afternoon. Another event on the 18th is the Lost Dog Races, an evening race. Temperatures will be in the 80s with mostly cloudy skies in Lorton, Virginia. And on the 19th, we have the Gnarled Orchard Hard Cider Challenge in Delaplane, partly cloudy and humid, 70s in the morning, mid to upper 80s in the afternoon. So that's all I have for you on this Wednesday, and we'll talk to you next week as we look forward towards the end of September. Have a great week.